not running, that's not training, that's cycle, that's abusing yourself effectively. So and you will not, if you do the hard runs as written, if you follow the plan, you won't be abusing yourself. If you pick one hard run and decide this is what I'm going to do every day because this made me feel good that one day, that could be abusing yourself. So do the plan as written. Any run can be scaled back when you need it to. Don't really try to push for more right now, and give yourself all the grace you need to keep going. Okay. So, Susan, here we go. I'm going into cut another stream marker at 1 hour and 6 minutes for rebuild. And sorry. I don't normally get allergies, but it's all this coming out with the tornado that just passed.
Terrible here right now.
So bad. I'm sorry to hear it's bad there, too.
Yeah, my husband is miserable. He is all medicined up, like he cannot function unless he's taking 5 different medicines.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
no fun.
I feel so bad for him.
Get well, Tristan, especially since he's one having to take care of Roz tonight, so you can be here. Thanks, Tristan.
Exactly. Thank you, Tristan.
Okay, turning to rebuild. What frame or lens should I use when reflecting on last month's workouts, particularly for determining what lane to choose for the next month? Does amount of time walking versus shuffling versus running matter? To me, no. The central question, and then I have a video really breaking this down well. That's going to be in the members area of the website at the beginning of June. The difference between the programs, the way I look at it, is again very different because all of my programs have the same basic pattern, and the same basic pattern is Thursday off, Sunday off, and then you're running all the other days. So when the question you have to ask yourself is, am I ready for more work? Do I want more work? Do I have bandwidth this month for more work? I don't see, if you're in Maintain and you know that June is just like a poop show from start to finish, like the kids are not in school and you work from home and they have a sitter, but camp doesn't start for 2 more weeks, that's not a great setup. Give yourself some grace. If you choose to do rebuild, and the way we talk about this choice matters. You're not dropping down. You're not backing off. You're not backing up. There's nothing, you're downshifting maybe, but really you're just taking control of your training, which is exactly what I want you to do. You're looking around and saying, I'm going to make an empowered choice, and June, I would rather not write it off, but I'm going to hop into rebuild until life calms down, and I'll be in lane 1 for the first 2 weeks, and then when camp starts and I don't have them yelling downstairs while I try to work anymore, I'll hop into lane 2, and at the end of the month, if I feel like I want more work and I'm ready for more work, then I will go into Maintain. So the question you really need to ask yourself is, am I ready for more work? And all of the workouts will be the lane 1 and lane 2 will be much clearer in the workout descriptions and training peaks for June. I apologize if it wasn't clear this month, and thank you for bearing with us through the beta. But what I really wanted you to kind of understand is, like, here's option 1, and if you want more work, here's option 2. And if you really want more work, and you consistently want more work throughout the month, then when June comes, that's when it's time. Everything feels good in the first week, when your legs are fresh, when we're effectively in the cutback week. Where it starts to add up, if you're doing all the strength, is week 2, and then more in week 3, and then week 4 is heavier, and then we cut and reset back to baseline at the turn of the month. So if you've been through an entire month, and that final week still didn't feel like enough work, great. Feel free to hop over into the next program, over into Maintain, give it a try. If at the end of the first week of Maintain it's too much, and really the difference between the last week of lane 2 and the first week of Maintain, it's not big. It's not really a huge jump. But if you get over there and by week 2 it feels like a huge jump, you have all of the parameters you need to sort of scale back your running so that you don't overdo it. I wouldn't worry about the amount of time walking, shuffling, running. I would worry about bandwidth going forward, the amount of work you really want to do. Are you ready for more work? Don't feel like I've been here this long, therefore I should. It's shaming to live in the should do. That's not a good line of thinking. It's more like, what do I want to do? What do I have bandwidth to do? What do I have time to do? And then where you need to be really is going to fall out of that. I really don't care how many miles you've been running. I know that's how you guys have always looked at it. I've been running 20 miles per week, so I belong in this plan. And I've been doing this, and this, so I belong in this plan. And that's just not how I look at it. And I'm sorry. I know it's a learning curve to try to look at this a little bit differently. But it really... I ran 20 miles last week doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't. I ran 5 days last week. All of them were easy effort. That tells me something. You know, I ran a total of 7 hours last week, all of them in easy effort. That tells me something. You know, it does, like, the miles, it doesn't tell me anything about how you executed it. It doesn't tell me, I mean, it tells me so little. But what I can say is that when you're coming out of lane 2 of rebuild, and you think you're strong enough and you feel like you're ready for more work, then it's not, we're not, you know, turning everything upside down. The transition really will be seamless. And if week 1 feels like a huge jump and we get to week 2, you've got the instructions in Training Peaks of like how to adjust it. You can just repeat week 1. It's okay. You are not expected to do everything as written. But I hopefully, like, I give you, and that's why we have this too. If you think, well, this is the adjustment I want to make, reach out and ask. And when I show up and I do my daily strength demonstrations in the daily thread with Coach Sarah and ask the coach, you have plenty of opportunities to ask us, this is what I think I want to do. Do you have any concerns? And I'll tell you if I do or if I don't. But someone coming directly from rebuild into maintain is probably not going to want to do all the long runs as written in the first month, and that is fine. But also the instructions in Training Peaks kind of make it clear how to jump through, how to increase your long run week by week. So there's that. Next question. Can I please confirm 10 weeks of maintain and then a switch to 10 weeks of marathon training to get to the start line of a marathon? Thanks. Kind of, yes-ish. And by ish, I mean like, the way I think about it is I need two months in maintain to feel good about you using the 10-week marathon plan. Okay? I feel better if you have 3 months in maintain doing everything as written before using the 10-week marathon plan. Anything beyond that, it's just gravy. Sure, it's fine. Anything less than 2, I'm like, I don't know. This was not designed to be a specific, like, 20-week plan, and again, I know that's how it's been presented in the past. We're really trying to do things differently here. The way I wrote it and the way I set it up, it's sort of like, you only need, if you're here and you just hang out, you have the option to run a marathon in 10 weeks if you so choose. And where this kind of comes into play, let's say you win a drawing into the New York City Marathon in the middle of September. Guess what? You'll be ready if you've been here since May or June. You know, so it's not about counting down the weeks and adding it all together and getting the exactness. Fitness protection is about developing the habit, forming the habit, keeping the habit, nurturing the habit, and then when something comes up that you're excited about and excited to do, we don't need that much time to get ready for it because your base of fitness is so high. That's really what it's about. So I'm gonna hand, and that's why I'm handing out the marathon and half marathon training plans for free in here, because it's sort of like incidental to the bigger picture of what we're trying to do, and that's take the pressure off of everything. It's easy to fall into and stay into the ticking days off the calendar and ticking weeks off, but then, you know, you can still be excited and you can still have a lot of fun with it and you can still want performance out of yourself. Like, none of that has to go away, but what does go away is the constant pressure to do everything just as written, because everything on this ticking clock matters and everything I don't do is going to impact my performance at the end of it, and it's like, yeah, you're fit enough to be ready for a marathon in 10 weeks. You want to run this marathon in 10 weeks? Let's do it! That's more my attitude towards it. I want to have you fit enough that when Susan announces whatever crazy shit she wants to do for Christmas, you can be like, yay, that's 12 weeks out. I'm in. Or whatever nonsense, you know, Sarah decides she wants to do in February. You can be like, that sounds fun. I'm in. Yay. I can be ready by then, because because what happens to me all the time is people will decide at the last minute, I want to do this with my friends. Oh, I don't have enough time. Oh gosh, I need a coach to help me get ready. And I'm not a magician. I'm not Harry Potter. I'm not Jesus or Santa Claus, and I don't want that responsibility, you guys. So when people come to me and they're like, I really want to run this marathon with my friends in 3 months. Can you help me? I'm like, no. What have you been doing lately? Nothing. Ugh. It's scary. So what I'm trying to do is maximize the options, minimize the pressure, and then you can have fun with it. You can do all the races if you keep all the fitness all the time. But if you don't think any further than your next training plan or your next training cycle, I guarantee you're not doing enough in between to maintain your fitness. It never happens. Never happens. The people that try to hire me one-on-one either have really big goals and a long outlook, or they have bitten off more than they can chew. They really want to do something and they don't really have enough time to do it safely, so they think they want a guide. So that's where I think like the industry's broken, and I really want to try to fix it. And maybe you don't want to train for your race with me. That's fine. But hang out here in between. It's easy to join. It's easy to leave. Come work with us in the off season, and then turn around and do whatever plan you want for the race. That's fine. Don't bring a plan here though. I cannot and will not answer questions about another coach's plan. That's totally unethical. That's actually stealing money from them, and I'm not going to do it. But if you want to come hang out here in between, awesome. This is a great place to be. We'll take care of you and make sure that when you go back to your coach, to your training group, to wherever it is you want to get ready for that marathon or that half with, that you're ready to be there. And I would love it if you're like the fittest person that shows up on day one, because
like, what you been doing?
Yeah, I've been maintaining. No one else actually has. It's the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Is there a PDF of the monthly plan including the strength?
This is the one where she figured it out, and the last question is, never mind, I figured it out. Watch the video.
Okay. Yeah, so those, I'm not really doing those yet. And if you're new to this, if you're new to the stream, if you haven't been here before, I have 3 clients that are completely disabled. 2 are fully blind. They're called totals, totally blind, as in like they can't even see light versus dark. And I have a person who is totally deaf, 100%, has never heard. So if my next steps with Fitness Protection is to make everything inclusive, and so that they can use all the resources. So if you are sighted, if you are abled, if you can, then I'm going to ask you to use Training Peaks, and you can print it out from there while I figure out how to accommodate my and make this the most inclusive program possible. Once this becomes inclusive and we have a little extra money coming in, sure, I'll make you all the pretty PDFs you want. But my priority has to be these guys, and it's not a huge expense. It is just a little complicated because I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel and have them. I want them to, if they're really going to feel included, and not feel like they're in the disabled arm of the Fitness Protection Program, which is not what I want at all, then there are a couple of things that have to happen first to make that a seamless experience. So between now and then, I know it sounds like an easy ask, just make me a PDF. I'm like, if I'm spending a dime on printed material that is not a transcription for my deaf client and is not making Training Peaks, which my blind clients are unable to use, then I'm wasting my money. And so that is where financially my priorities have to be, at least for the next 2 to 3 months. PDFs will be coming, just not anytime soon. But if you can see and you can hear and you can use Training Peaks, then here's what you can do. You can go into Training Peaks, you can take your download code, put it in Training Peaks, and there your plan will be. There are 2 buttons. You can either do a print screen, or you can click at the end on the hamburger and say print, and you can send that whole, it'll only print like 1 or 2 weeks at a time, but that's an option. Another option is to turn on the daily emails, so it'll tell you what to do each day, and then you can print those emails out, and you'll always be 1 day ahead in the workouts that way. If you're looking for boxes to check, that will be coming. But the first pieces of printed material in PDF form that you're going to see from me are going to be the marathon and half marathon plans that will be along with a couple of fact sheets that are going to live in the membership area of your account. The next thing you're going to see after that, is going to be hopefully the inclusion area of the site, the screen reader compliant area of the website, which you won't need to use, but people who need screen readers will, and that's important to me, and that's just a core value, and I stand by it. This answer isn't going to change, and I know it's made some of you unhappy, and I don't care. It's my company. And I'm a butthead if I'm not thinking of Carrie first, since no one else on this planet thinks of Carrie first. So there's that. And that's how you would print it out. So if you want something to print it out, you can print it out in Training Peaks. If you email info@coachedandloved.com, I will copy, paste, and give you the instructions quite directly. But a lot of people have asked for that. So it is something I will do later. It's just I'm a brand new company. I'm 1 month off the ground. I only have 2 programs that are live at the moment. One of them is out of beta form. So when I have a little more money to play with, then I'll start giving, all the things that people want. But for now, if I'm not, my priority is just going to be inclusion. So,
and I could maybe do another one of those videos where like I did for the activation code, where I screen share and show how to like get the printable. We can talk about
sure.
about doing that. And maybe
Yes.
Right.
Yes, we did, and I know you did that great video, and I apologize when we when I started falling apart with the string. Sarah's done a lot of things that I haven't been able to use yet, unfortunately, because again, short staffed, one IT guy, and one tech person. So we are.
It's all there. It's not going anywhere. You can use it when you're ready.
It'll be going up somewhere, but we also it needs to live. You're right. It does need to live on a place on the website where we can share it again with people when they ask this question, because it's a fair question. I totally get that people want to print things out. I really do, and I do want to accommodate. It's just like, this is what the line looks like. Sorry. Talk about your new Polar. I love my new Polar. It just beeped. So my new Polar, I got this yesterday, and it was very exciting. My Polar M400, it was working just fine. I got it in 2013. It probably at the time cost $150. And I love that watch. The things that I love about, I hate touch screens. I worked second shift in a factory when I was in high school in the summer before college. I had to pick hot television backs off a press. And to Tim Plasko, shout out to anybody watching that worked there too, yay. I'm still friends with people on Facebook that worked in the factory with me. So my fingerprints aren't real good. And what that means is that the ridges are too light, which means I can't use a lot of touchscreen things. Thanks, Apple. So that's the main reason I don't use a Garmin, and I don't tell that story that often, because I don't like sounding like the hillbilly redneck that I actually am, and I don't like opening up the sort of commentary that comes after that about, like, why would your parents do that? Like, be where I'm from, and we can talk about the options that I had and the choices my parents made. But when it comes down to, I've never liked touchscreen anything because I can't use them well. And this is not actually a touchscreen; it's just real pretty. So that got me excited. It's button operated, and it's still very much in line with, like, if you've been using a Polar and you're used to the way the Polar is set up, this is then you're really going to like the Vantage V. So I'm still one day into it, and it's still learning me. I'll have a much more thorough review coming up. But what kind of put me over the top for the Vantage V versus the Vantage M was everything that happens behind the scene. I really want to see what they're doing with TRIMP scores, which is a measure of cardiovascular fitness, what they're looking at in terms of recovery, because everything is more dialed in and more sharp. With the Vantage V than even the 800. It's a big jump up, and I went from the M400. It worked fine. Got the M430 because I kept forgetting the strap while I was pregnant to when I would walk into Pilates class, and I had the V800 because the GPS was more accurate than the GPS in the original 400 from 2013. This thing, it's just top of the line. I mean, it caught. Normally, I would have to wait. If you guys have Garmin's, you remember the original Garmin Forerunner. You'd have to sit there and wait for the satellites to catch on. It was really annoying. It took forever. This happened in seconds. Even with Polar, it can be a little slow sometimes. With this, it happened in seconds. Wow. So the analysis is much broader, kind of like in a picture. It's visual representations of all the data, all the pictures that I have to make myself in an Excel spreadsheet for my clients from Training Peaks data. So I can't be like Recovery Pro, Cardio Pro is the best thing ever, because I don't know yet. I've had it for a day, and the data really won't be good because a lot of these are rolling averages, so they won't be good until we're 42 days out. So ask me in July for the final verdict, but for right now, it's light, it's pretty, yay, go Big Orange, and I like it a lot, and that's already a huge advantage over the V800, which kind of, I don't want to say it gave me carpal tunnel, but it made my wrist hurt a lot because it would move around on my wrist so much. So, yeah, there's that. Do we have any more big questions, Sarah?
One more rebuild question.
Okay.
And it is kind of a big one, so.
Uh-oh. Let's hear it. Where is it? Oh, do I need to refresh the page?
No, I don't think so. Do you want me to read it? I have it right here.
Oh, there it is. Oh. Okay, sorry. This is why I usually turn off accepting responses after the stream starts. Whew. Because I don't want to miss things. Now, so let me go back and do that in the other one, too.
Yeah, I think the other one, I don't think we got anything else.
Okay.
And we did have a couple questions come up in the Twitch comments, and I tried to answer them satisfactorily. I figured we might be running a little late tonight, so
okay.
If people have follow-ups, they can ask them on Facebook.
Okay, and I can't see any of the questions in Facebook if there are any, so if anyone's watching.
Facebook, yeah, it's just Twitch.
Okay.
but I'll say them if we have time to. But let's focus on this one for right now.
Sweet. Not sure if I need a mantra, sympathy, or a hard kick in the pants, but I'm just not getting the runs in. For a variety of reasons and excuses. The activation energy is high. This week I'm having sinus surgery, which I know is next in line in a string of setbacks and excuses. Don't even know what my question is or what I'm asking for, but maybe as coaches you know. Girl, you living. It's fine. Look, not everyone is going to be like on fire, motivated. Gotta get my run done all the time. This is a habit that I have had since I was little because my dad had a massive coronary and it turned our world upside down and made my childhood hell. And I say that gently and lovingly because it's a scary, scary thing. And that was impressed on me from the time I was little. If you better run or you might die like your dad. Your dad is lucky to be alive. That is a scary thing to say to a 6-year-old and have to hear so much. So if there's any part of that that's easier for me, it's because I'm traumatized by my family history. And the fact that every time I go see a doctor, they're like, oh, wow. Oof. So we're just basically waiting for your heart attack. And I'm like, my dad had one at 33. I've made it to 41. I'm okay. But doctors talk to me as though I'm this ticking time bomb to the point that I almost don't like going to the doctor. So I tell you that to tell you this. The one thing I do, the thing I am consistent with, the thing that I'm getting that is becoming easier now that I'm getting fitter is running. And that's not born of love as much as it is of trauma and fear of what will happen if I don't. Okay, so if it's harder for you to get excited, yay, you're not damaged. I wouldn't wish this on anybody. It's okay. It's hot. It is hard to get out of bed. We are pulled in a million different directions, and the way work is going now, people expect you to be back up working after your kids go to bed. Who wants to do that? Everyone's trying to make their every crevice of their life productive, and everyone's trying to monetize their hobby and their side hustle. And that is just a lot of pressure to cram productivity out of every single second of your day. So if you've been choosing to kind of curl up in bed, don't beat yourself up about it. If you're choosing to not run, just own it and don't beat yourself up about it. What you have here is, like I've said, the real value is me telling you, hey, it's okay, to hear it from someone that cares. Like, it's okay. What we're going to do is hit the reset button come June the 1st, and if the activation is high, then great. Let's try to do something in week 1. Let's think of one thing we're going to do differently to make it easier to get up and attack your workouts in the morning. Be that I'm going to turn my screens off at 9:30 or turn my phone over somewhere I'm not going to pick up my phone. I'm going to get a subscription to the Headspace app and fall asleep every night listening to Headspace. If you can't afford Headspace, a really good alternative is a podcast called Sleep With Me. It's made by if you like Welcome to Night Vale, it's made by one of their actors, and all he does is speak in creaky, dulcet tones for an hour in meandering ideas that you can't even it's the most boring story ever told, and my kids love it. That's how I put them to sleep every night. We listen to Sleep With Me podcast. So maybe that's the change you need to make. But what needs to change is you beating yourself up. Instead of being like, well, I need to jump out, this is what I need to be doing. The change that we need to make is probably a much smaller, more subtle one than that, and then everything else is going to fall into place. And maybe it starts with, I'm going to turn on the Sleep With Me podcast or Headspace and turn my phone over and lay down in bed and not let myself get up or touch any of my screens after that. And I'm going to start taking Hyland's the calm pills, the night pills. I can't remember the name of them. It doesn't matter. Hyland's doesn't pay me yet. Natural Calm, I think it's called. Yeah, so maybe I'm going to take some more magnesium. Maybe we're going to come up with something that makes it easier to go to bed a little bit earlier, that hopefully will make it a little bit easier to get out of bed first thing in the morning. But none of that is going to work if you're still pressuring yourself, if you feel pressured to fall asleep so that you don't mess up in the morning, then all of this is going to fall apart. It's about the more we can take the pressure out of places in our life, the more likely we're going to get the things that we want. You can hit what's the old saying? Hit a mule twice, it'll run faster. Hit it more than that, it's going to die. Your will.
That's an amazing saying.
It's true. Beating a mule more ain't gonna make it move faster. So there's that. And if you're kind of like beating yourself harder, beating yourself up more, there's a reason that the outcomes aren't coming. No one responds to that. So that's don't worry about the setbacks, excuses. And by the way, sinus surgery, that's real. That's real. Heal from that completely before, and stay here because and stay connected to us. And if you can walk, do, but keep your heart rate down while you do it, because you need your blood vessels to, when you work out really hard, when you're higher than 140, your blood vessels dilate, they get really big, and that can impede healing in certain areas. You can literally break open the things that are healing themselves after this surgery. So take that seriously. And let's use that time not to be productive, but during this time, let's maybe make a few small changes that'll lead to really big results. Since you don't have to get up early to do your run before work because you're healing from surgery, let's start practicing some of those, some of the new things that we're going to do to fall asleep faster, to sleep better, to be a little more excited to get up in the morning. The biggest change that I made was when we have west-facing windows in my bedroom where I sleep. So I sleep with the shades up. I fall asleep with the shades up so that when the sun is up, I am up. It is full bright in my bedroom at 5:15, and there is no rolling over and pulling the covers over my head when it's already full bright in the room and the kids are awake. I have to get out of that. Actually, the name of the game becomes get out of the house before the kids wake up and get in bed with you and derail your run. So there are little changes, like maybe that's what we do for you. Maybe it's we get to bed earlier. Maybe we leave the shades open. We can find some little change. Let's take advantage of this time, this forced time off to heal from surgery, to come up with a couple of new practices, small changes in your routine that'll make it easier to get the run done and more likely that you're going to incorporate the run into your routine. And finally, go back to what I said to the person in Rebuild. Let's find a way to make that run fun. Treat yourself. And if that's putting on headphones and listening to a podcast, awesome, do that. If it's going to the gym, even though like you should be on the road, it's shaming to live in the shit, don't do that. Go to the gym and watch the Kardashians. Watch The Wire. Watch that show you don't get to watch any other time. Really make it you time. Find a way to covet it and then protect it, because you know what? It's it's not my therapy. Therapy is my therapy, but running is the only time during the day when I'm alone. It is my self-care, and I'm not giving it up for any reason. And I don't need an excuse to watch the Kardashians, but I don't think anybody needs an excuse to watch the Kardashians. They're fantastic. Sometimes you need brain candy. It's okay. You cannot be, we're not robots.
True story. When Roz was first born and I was just like walking, and I felt terrible and I hated it because I was not ready to be doing any of it yet. I would walk to Starbucks and get a nice coffee and then walk back.
I love it.
You can't walk with a coffee in your hand. You can't run with a coffee in your hand, so you have to walk. And at that point, I felt like it was okay to walk. But that was the only thing that got me out the door to make me feel like I'm looking forward to this now because there's Starbucks at the end of it.
Totally.
Even though, I have to run on shitty roads to get to a strip mall and then walk back on shitty roads to Starbucks. It's still Starbucks.
Exactly.
Do what you gotta do.
Do what you gotta do. Find that thing that makes it fun and do it. We're not going to judge what it is, because you know what? What your next race, if it isn't faster than the one before, you are still going to have health insurance. You are still going to have your home. If you read my Nuzzle newsletter, if you've been following any of the story of the Nike fuckery that's been happening this past week, it's been happening for much longer than that, but it's only really come to light recently. The sort of pressures, the performance pressures that professional athletes, specifically women, have lived and worked under for a very long time. It's frustrating and it's hard. And I talk about, and dudes have it too. That's not fair. Dudes have it too. Luke Puskedra, if you look 2015, October 2015, he was the fastest American in the Chicago Marathon, and that was deemed a great big comeback. And the reason that was a big deal was because in the race 2 years prior, the New York City Marathon, he showed up, he ran a 2:27, and this guy was supposed to be the second coming. He'd been widely heralded. This was his marathon debut as a Nike-sponsored runner. He ran a disappointing 2:27, a full 20 minutes slower than they expected him to run, and they dropped him. He lost his health insurance.
Oh my God.
And
I remember that story.
Not long after that, they found out his wife was pregnant when their baby was 6 months old. She had a brain tumor. There was a GoFundMe started by the running community to support this amazing professional runner who in a terrible, horrifying situation. And I remember forwarding that to my runners and saying, hey guys, you know what? I know how stressed out you get, and I know how you want to do well, but you can want to do well and you can care without being at the levels of despair and not feeling good about yourself that you
Yeah.
feel, because you know who has really high stakes? The people at the front of the race. More talent does not mean it's easier. More talent means more work. And more work is, you can opt into it. But it's not necessarily better, and things don't necessarily get easier. In fact, a lot of things get a whole lot harder. So on that note, if we're not operating under that type of pressure, then we shouldn't be, if our consequences aren't that high, then we shouldn't be putting that level of pressure on ourselves, because it is really hard, and it doesn't have to be. This is a hobby. It's fun. It should be fun. And if you have a month where you spend it in bed, great. Hit the reset button the next month. It's a chance to start anew and a tether to a community and all the support that you would need to make that happen, because just doing things differently is so unlikely. The next best step for a lot of people is joining a run club or getting a coach or liking a Facebook page. It's that one step in the next direction, and just by being here and being tethered to me, you are that much more likely to actually go through with getting back on the horse than you were if you were on your own. And that option is worth $30 a month to me.
Yeah.
So.
Because we're going to clap for you every day, no matter what. Like, we are always going to be like, oh my God, you did your run to Starbucks to the strip mall. Yay!
Yay!
Amazing! That's what we're here to do. Like, we get how big of a deal that is when you're in a place where you're feeling low. We will never not see the work you're doing.
Yeah, and we're not, and that, which is not to say like we're going to blow smoke up your rear end. We're just going to see the wins that you overlook. I don't have to make things up to tell you guys that you're awesome and you're doing hard things, and that it's amazing to me that if you don't have my trauma and you don't have my history, that you managed to pick up my hobby for no good reason. You just woke up and said, I think I'm going to run a race, and then decided to stay. That's amazing. Give yourself some credit for that. Even if you don't do it for a month or two, you're still coached, you're still loved, you're still winning at life. Own it. Buy the t-shirt while you're at it before the sale's up.
Yay!
Yay! All right, on that note, if there's nothing else in the questions or the comments, I'm going to wind this up because we've been going for 90 minutes. Coach Sarah?
Yeah, I know. We did good. So Sarah, the only thing that we didn't directly address was Sarah asked any thoughts on the transition from rebuild to maintain, ease in. It's a pretty big jump in volume and paces. I think you did talk about that when you were answering someone else's question.
Wait, where is that?
And I typed in some. That's like midway through the Twitch questions. Twitch has got a lot of comments in there, and part of that is because I've been trying to address some of them as they came in. So.
Oh wow!
It's right under where Susan says junk miles. Yeah.
Tag strength videos. So, okay, I'm seeing that. I'm catching up.
Yeah, that's okay. That's the beginning. So scroll down.
You're turning 50 in July. Yay! If it's more important to be fit and fabulous, you're so in the right place. Yeah. I mean, Suze can tell you all about fabulous.
I agree.
Linda. Yes, I loved meeting Linda. Oh my gosh. There are so many cool people at 3 Days at the Fair.
She was amazing. Yeah.
Yes, videos are accessible whenever it's convenient for anyone. That's the whole idea. And so you answered that. I usually miss the strength. That's fine. Watch the video. Add some lifting into your routine. You can do more. That's, again, like, I know it sounded super restricted before, but if you've worked with me in the past, you have worked with me during a training cycle that you paid good money for and you were expecting performance in. So no, I can't be like, oh, just do whatever you want on top of this, because I'm probably giving you more running than you've ever done before. And I have no idea if you're appropriately trained to even begin these training programs. So to that effect, I had to be like, anything that's intense or hard or taxing on your muscles, you really need to reconsider. In maintain, though, I don't really care. The stakes are different, the view is different, the attitude is different. I don't want you to deprive yourself, ever, but the trade-off is that we're in a cycle where you're demanding performance, and the only way you're going to judge if I did my job well or if I was worth the money you spent is if you get the time that you want. Then we got to start saying no to all kinds of things. Here, I mean, it's just a totally different outlook. So yeah, go lift weights. You want to lift weights? I don't care. Don't get hurt.
Just do our strength too.
Yes, don't drop our strength for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, any thoughts on the transition from rebuild to maintain to ease in? It's a pretty big jump in volume and paces. It is. So that what I recommend always is just do what you think you can do. The pace jump is, again, it's not intended to be maximal. It should feel like candy. If you're coming out of rebuild, you've probably not seen 5K paces. So to see that on the training plan should be a little bit exciting. But if you're like, I'm not ready to do that, I'm not ready to go there, great. How about 10K pace? How about half marathon pace? You don't want to do that hard workout? Make it easy effort. Only you kind of know exactly where you are at any given moment, and I'm not training anyone in here one-to-one. So I'm hoping to give you guys enough tools to make those modifications. The first thing, the training volume shouldn't be a gigantic jump from week 4 of lane 2 into week 1 of maintain.
Yeah.
So if you're going from lane 1 to maintain, that's a huge jump. Please don't do it. Let's get through at least 1 month in lane 1. If you've done everything in lane 1 and you want more work and more challenge, do lane 2 all the way through 1 complete month. Everything feels good the first week when your legs are fresh and the volume's low. There's a big difference between week 1 and week 4. And you can repeat the week. You don't have to increase volume or paces ever. I don't really care. It's an option to do more work if you want to. You can always go back and just repeat week 1 if that's where you're at, and if that's what you choose to do, great. Go pay for Premium Training Peaks, and then you can change the total workout time at the end, and you can have all the green boxes you want and not feel like, I know the red boxes really bother people, but if I'm not, even if you were paying me $100 to $350 every day, sorry, not every day, every month, to train you one-on-one, I still don't go in there and do that. If you want to see a green box, you can do that yourself. I don't see that as my job. But I digress. So sort of like, think about what you need to get out of it. So it shouldn't be a huge jump from week 4 of lane 2 and rebuild to week 1 of maintain. There is a huge jump between week 4 of rebuild and week 4 of maintain. And we don't have to make that jump overnight. We can make small incremental increases. What I always recommend is going at your own speed and going at your own pace, and taking all the workouts into your own hands rather than being like, I must do this as written. It's a guideline. It's a suggestion. Your worst case scenario in any day is to go out for 20 minutes and call it good.
Yeah.
But if you can't run more than 20 minutes at a stretch, then you really don't belong in maintain. Was there anything else on top of that? Oh, don't get me started on speed walkers.
Yeah,
speed walkers.
We discussed speed walkers, and then and this person said, I want my easy effort to be beating the darn speed walkers in any race. And so I basically said, if the question is how do I get my easy effort pace faster, then that is a whole question that we can address maybe at some other point. But the short answer, it has more to do with nutrition, sleep, and weather conditions than with fitness.
Okay.
This is a long game we're playing.
Totally. All right, the kids are about to burst in that room if you could hear those feet coming up the stairs, because it's almost their bedtime.
The last one is, what do I need to do in rebuild if I can't do all the runs, assuming 5 days, but don't really know, coming off an injury and currently running 2 times a week? I said walk when you can't run. Any amount of walking is good. And you can read the follow-ups that I put in there too.
Well, if you're injured, if you're still working through the injury, then we probably need to stay in rebuild.
Yeah, right, exactly. So this is a different person. She just is talking about being in rebuild. What if I can't do all of the runs, as runs all the time?
Yeah.
My understanding that rebuild is fine to do plenty of walking.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so the jump from 2 times a week to 5 times a week should not be gigantic, but do whatever your physical therapist and your doctors told you to do. If they've told you that you can only be on your feet 3 days a week, great, we're going to forget the other 2, and we're going to do all the exercises. So everyone should really be cleared by a doctor before they start, and that's part of the terms and conditions that you accept, because that's all of this is completely out of my... Oh, you're not in rebuild yet. Okay. When you get there, do get cleared before you start rebuild, but once you're in there, we all, use the daily run threads, come ask us, and we can take that for your first week. Literally, we can take it day by day. This felt okay. What do I do tomorrow? This felt okay. What do I do? And maybe we do the run on Monday and the run on Wednesday, and we walk on Tuesday and Friday. But we do kind of need to get in the habit of moving in those patterns, because it'll make it easier to ramp up when it's time to ramp up. Once you kind of stop and you say, well, I'm not going to run on Tuesdays, that time in the calendar kind of goes away, and it's hard to get it back. And again, this is something I've seen the hard way, where people like, well, this is what I do, and then that becomes all that they do. Because once that whatever has taken that real estate in the calendar away, it's just really hard to negotiate with your spouse, with your kids, or even with yourself to get it done again, because, well, you didn't do it before. So I say when you're getting into this, the best thing you can do for you is to protect that calendar real estate and try to follow the 5-day pattern, even if we're not doing everything as written. The easiest modification to make is your best alternative to what's written is a 20-minute walk. That's what that's really how I would approach it.
That sounds like she's going to do fine in rebuilds, because if she says she's cleared to run, she just isn't running much yet, that's fine. Walk a lot. Do like
don't be afraid to
running and walk, and then you'll slowly add on running as as your physical therapist allows. We'll be there with you.
Yeah, we will. And walking, there's no shame in it. I mean, you got to walk before you can run. We've all heard that before. But really where it comes into play is that we're readapting your body to do this one thing continuously for a long period of time. And not everyone's going to be ready to run for an hour or jog for an hour without stopping. And we get that. That's why we have this continuum that'll bring you to that point. And on the days when you feel you have more, we give you permission to do a little bit more. But we put those parameters in there, kind of like the lines on the side of the road. They're you can drive over them, but they're really there to keep you safe. So I don't ever want a person to feel pushed. And if you're the sort of person that sees the speed limit of 65 and drives 67, that's not what we're asking you to do. We're saying, just don't go past this and you're fine. If you're underneath it, we're good. We need to spend a lot of time on your feet is really all that matters, because we're adapting your tendons, joints, and ligaments and getting them. They're much more important than your muscles. Your muscles have nerves. They get direct blood flow. They repair themselves. It's a big deal. With tendons, joints, and ligaments, when they're torn, they don't tell you. It just happens. And then they don't repair themselves. You got to get surgery. So we are limited. The limiting factor in all of our bodies are tendons, joints, and ligaments. And the problem is they don't necessarily have a voice. By the time there's a problem, ask anyone whose Achilles has ever snapped. They didn't see it coming the moment that it happened. They felt fine. Maybe the muscles around had been tight for a while, but the moment it popped, they were like, I don't know why then and there, because I didn't do anything different. So to that end, there had probably been red flags for a while, because the tendon doesn't tell you there's a problem. The muscles around it do. And it's easy to overlook. But I digress. So what I want you to focus on is that is what goes through your head. I'm just walking. Don't let that happen. I'm getting what I need. I'm getting what I need. Time on my feet. I'm adapting my joints. I'm getting what I need. I'm a badass. Because the most badass thing you can do is go out there in public and put yourself out there and get what you need, even though what you need isn't what everyone else is doing, what you used to do, what people think that you should do. Showing up anyway is badass. And we'll be here, and I know it's a hard thing to do, which is why we're going to be here supporting you. Does that help?
Yes.
The 10% rule, I don't worry about the 10% rule so much, because the 10% rule isn't really based on anything. So the 10% rule was a rule of thumb that it's one of the few things that carried over from decades back that still exists today, that we don't completely understand. Things are the way they are because they were the way they were, so to speak. So yes, increasing your training volume by more than 10% in a week might not be the best idea ever. Going from 5 miles to 10 miles, extending your long run, that's a big jump, for example. But in my programs, everything is designed to be very gradual. So if you're coming in the first week and 5 days a week is already just a huge adjustment, awesome. Then you know what? We just do week 1 over and over and over again for the first month. And then when you're in month 2, do I want more work? Great, do more work. But the 10% rule really isn't based on science. It was based on best practices and rule of thumb back before we had Training Peaks, heart rate monitors, and formal certification programs that kind of said this is how you need to look at the whole picture when it comes to an athlete. And the final note is the 10% rule was based off of observing training loads that elites and professionals at the time could bear. And the funny thing about about an athlete that has not maxed themselves out yet, but meaning they haven't maxed out they haven't found the limits of their physical capability in their current body. They haven't gotten so fit that they can't get fitter without the assistance of drugs. They can't clear lactate any faster. They cannot possibly produce more red blood cells. Then with that, and I'm gonna have to go in a minute. I'm getting the bad signal. But with that, you can be 15% and be fine. I'm more concerned with adding intensity than I am duration, because you know what, you could go out and walk for an hour as it is. The question is, how much of that hour do we need to spend running? No more than, and that's really more how I would apply that 10% rule. Because we know that if we have someone that's super fit and we're just increasing, their hard effort workouts by 10% every week, eventually we're pretty close to what the physical limitations of that person are, and we're going to break them. I'm less worried about breaking a super sub-elite casual runner. I'm cognizant of it. I'm just less worried about it. Like one hard workout on Monday is very unlikely to break you. You're much more likely to be broken if you run the paces faster than the caps I give you, or run them longer than what I tell you to. Does that make sense? Because that's really what I'm more concerned with than the actual duration. Any run that you like, that you feel good, you're like, easy effort. The whole idea is you can do that for a really long time without stopping. On that note, I've got to go. Coach Sarah, I would give you the floor, but I'm the one broadcasting. So thanks everyone for being here. I hope you feel coached and loved and you're winning at life. And I will see you next week for Ask the Coach. I will also not see anyone in the Facebook groups tonight because it is Memorial Day, but I will be back on Tuesday night demonstrating the strength moves. Yay!
I will be doing strength tomorrow during the day still, so catch me around midday Eastern time.
Cash me outside. Sorry. I got you. All right, see you guys later. Bye.